Hello everyone and welcome to EVTN News. I did not do EVTN News last week, and so I'm actually covering a few weeks worth of stories, but when I held off, it actually worked out very nicely. As you'll see, the stories kind of started to build, and so there's multiple, follow-ups on some of these stories. So, let's just get right into it. And Judas, okay, so there's a new cardinal. There's several new cardinals, but he said this one new cardinal said Judas received the first morsel of bread at the Last Supper, and that was Jesus's way. This is a quote. That was Jesus's way of transforming a meal of betrayal into a meal of forgiveness. New Cardinal Pablo David, age 65, of the Philippines, said in December 3rd homily. So he's already spewing nonsense. Monsignor David has a history of sermons and essays in defense of Judas. So, oh man. How well does he fit with the other Francis cardinals? Well, I think Judas is the patron saint. Well, the patron, I wouldn't say saint, but the patron of the Jesuits. This cardinal I don't think is a Jesuit, Cardinal Pablo David, but he will be voting for the next pope. Does that give you any level of concern? Yeah. Okay, now Bishop Stowe, I don't think this will be the last news story on him today. Maybe it might be. Maybe there will be one next week. Anyway, Stowe said, I find it disappointing that our church did not speak out more forcefully about the danger of this election, or that we failed to even issue as a conference of bishops an appropriately updated guide for voting, our faithful citizenship document, which merely had a new introduction and continued to assert that the slaughter of the unborn is the preeminent issue, thereby practically endorsing somebody whose own position on slaughter of the unborn has actually fluctuated. He said, so he just took the opportunity, and Crux gave him a platform to spew his hatred for Trump. And I mean, if you didn't already know that about Stowe, then check out some of the videos that I have previously posted. And yeah. Wow. All right. So, Francis's Jubilee year of 2025. So, this was an old article, but let's just take a look. Francis's Jubilee year of 2025 will include the first pilgrimage expressly dedicated to LMNOPs. The official calendar of the Holy Year included a meeting of LMNOPs on September 6th in the historic Baroque church Il Gesù, land of the Jesuits, where St. Ignatius is buried. IlMassagero.it has learned that there was much internal resistance against the LMNOP propaganda stunt, but it went ahead nevertheless. The Pope accepted the idea of Father Pino Piva, a Bolognese Jesuit who has always been dedicated to the rainbow world. So that's the first story. Now the second story, so the Pillar actually contacted a spokesman at the Vatican's Dicastery for Evangelization, and this person on December 11th denied that the LMNOP pilgrimage to St. Peter's Basilica was ever listed on an official Vatican calendar. He told the Pillar that the pilgrimage is not on the website because it's not an official event sponsored by the dicastery. When asked why the pilgrimage had previously appeared on the website, the spokesperson denied that it had, stating twice that the pilgrimage was never on the website's calendar. Another Jubilee press spokesman told the Pillar on December 12th that the event was on the general calendar of Jubilee events, which included all pilgrimages and events proposed by dioceses or associations are included. wait, which includes all the pilgrimages. Okay, I think that was incorrect English. Anyway, it had been temporarily removed because the organizers had not yet provided detailed information about the event. They said the event will be reinstated. Okay, here's the important part. So the event will be reinstated as soon as the organizers provide the necessary details. So they're just waiting for more information on it so that they can post it, I guess, more accurately. So this one person lied about it. Well, okay, I don't want to assume they lied. So there's two possibilities here. They either didn't know and made it up, or they lied. They didn't know, and they said, and they made up an excuse for what they thought was correct, but not actually what was correct. And then the other person, I think, was telling the truth. So basically, there's an LMNOP pilgrimage. Okay. So lots of weird comments today. Okay. Bishop Dominicus Meyer of Osnabrück, Germany, who took office in September, doesn't just want to look at the Eucharist, but to revive other liturgical forms. Morning or evening praise, liturgies of the Word with communion. So he told a website on December 3rd, the parishes themselves must realize that other forms are just as valuable as the Eucharist. Bishop Meyer would like to see different places, for example, for young people or young families because they want something different from the typical Novus Ordo Sunday Eucharist. Well, typical Sunday Eucharist. So here's the key words. Basically, the summary here is that morning or evening praise. So they want to revive other forms, basically that are alternative to the liturgy, and they want something different from the typical Sunday Eucharist. So it sounds like they want some kind of Protestant praise and worship service or some kind of weird thing. I don't know. Okay. So former House Speaker and anti-life activist Nancy Pelosi has defied the ban of Archbishop Corleone of San Francisco and received communion. She said, I took communion anyway. She told this to the National Catholic Distorter on December 10th. So it's interesting they got an interview with her, but I think they're pretty well connected in that that side of politics. In a letter from 2022, Archbishop Corleone forbade Pelosi from receiving communion in his archdiocese because of her support of the slaughter of the unborn. Pelosi describes her de facto excommunication as his problem, not mine. Pelosi hinted that she appealed to the Vatican to have her suspension overturned. That should be an interesting decision if one is ever made. I don't know that the Vatican will actually make a decision on that ever. I don't know. Also, it wasn't clear how she appealed or who she appealed to. So, but the Vatican has a way of telling, well, the current Francis Vatican has a way of telling one person what one thing and another person another thing, and then everyone comes away with their different opinions and nothing is ever resolved. Archbishop Timothy Broglio, the USCCB president, reportedly refused Pelosi, a self-described Catholic who advocates for slaughter of the unborn, he refused her the sacrament after a mass he celebrated in the Capitol on December 12th in honor of Our Lady of Guadalupe, the patron saint of the Americas. According to Catholic News Agency, one of Pelosi's staffers approached Broglio to inform the Archbishop that Pelosi was coming to say hello and that she also wished to receive communion. However, as Catholic News Agency reported, Broglio agreed to meet with Pelosi but did not give her communion. Well, that might that would have been also like an interesting conversation. The next day, Pelosi was admitted to a hospital for evaluation after she sustained an injury during an official engagement in Luxembourg. It was after she fell, so she's supposedly was not. She was denied communion by Archbishop Broglio, and then flew to Luxembourg, I guess, the next day. Kind of interesting, but yeah, just a weird turn of events there. Okay, now this was what got Twitter in a frenzy. Supich, Cardinal Supich of Chicago, he had some interesting things to say about Vatican II, and I don't think really anyone agrees with him, even the modernists, but he said, certainly reverence can and should be expressed by bowing before the reception of Holy Communion, but no one should engage in a gesture that calls attention to oneself or disrupts the flow of the procession. The procession to communion, like the communion line. He said that would be contrary to the norms and tradition of the church, which all the faithful are urged to respect and observe. So he didn't outright ban kneeling for communion, but he strongly discouraged it here in this letter. He didn't. He just implied it very strongly, and that's definitely what he was getting at. Now a lot of people were outraged about this, and rightfully so. However, I would say, there's lots of instances of people being denied communion while kneeling, and I think it's a Novus Ordo problem. I think that you should definitely find the best alternative you can. I think that you really should go to a Latin Mass, and if not, then find a reverent Eastern Rite parish, and then you don't have to worry so much about this, being denied communion on the tongue, or what the priest is gonna, if the priest is gonna try to make a scene or whatever. And it avoids a lot of problems. So I would definitely try to do that. I mean, it's just indicative of the state of emergency, the state of crisis in the church that we're in, when a cardinal encourages his priest to deny people communion on the tongue, and that's the state we're living in right now. Okay, more fun and games. November 6th, Archdiocesan memo to clergy in the Vicariate of Brabant Walloon, a French-speaking area south of the capital, Brussels, Belgium, proposed naming Rebecca Alsberg alongside the Pope and the local bishop in the Eucharistic prayer. That's right, they're modifying the Eucharistic prayer. Another reason not to attend the Novus Ordo, especially in Belgium. So in Belgium, an Episcopal delegate is a territorial coordinator responsible for a region of a diocese. The position is called in some countries a regional vicar, though the term vicar is reserved for reference to a priest or bishop. But they put a woman in that position, so they're calling her an Episcopal delegate. And so for the Eucharistic prayer 1, the proposed wording would be, we present them in union with your servant, our Pope, whoever, our bishop, whoever, our Episcopal delegate, whoever, which would be a woman in this specific case, and all those who faithfully keep the Catholic faith received from the apostles. So that's sort of what they're getting at. Okay. All right. So the last thing I have is Bishop Strickland. Um, he wrote another good letter. He writes for LifeSite News, and it seems like he thinks it through for quite a while, prepares written statements, and publishes. LifeSite publishes them. And this one is no exception. I'm just going to read one short paragraph from him, and for you. He says, "It is clear that Archbishop Lefebvre walked an apostle's path and was led to establish a safe place, a refuge, where could be found the Mass of the ages in its pure form, a place where the deposit of faith would be protected and the staircase preserved intact, even while the ape of the church was pulling off boards and throwing out all that is most precious." So, Strickland is referencing Lefebvre positively. That's that's a different kind of story. That's kind of an unexpected turn of events, but I like it. I like where it's heading. What I don't like, so okay, finally, someone who I recognize on the live stream, and he or she says, "I don't recognize anyone here." Um, yeah, neither do I. Someone asked, "Can they donate?" Yeah, you should have. I mean, there's clearly like the donate comment button. I mean, I can see that up here. I don't know. Um, there's like a super chat. I mean, I don't know. That's just a spam comment. Um, I'm gonna remove all these comments. So what happens? It seems like, and I've been dealing with this for a few months, is that there's like a huge influx of people who come onto the live chat and just say hello and then jump immediately off the live stream. I don't know why they do it, but I'm gonna delete. I don't know why. I have no idea why they get on the live stream at all. It might be for recognition, so that maybe someone clicks on their profile, and it might be bots. I think most of them are bots, honestly. Okay, and I have two people commenting, but one person on the live stream, so I'm very skeptical of YouTube. It's just not. Oh, and zero people on one person on the live stream. I'm very skeptical of YouTube and how they do this, and I think it hurts my numbers more than anything. I don't know. It's just YouTube's been very weird. Um, really, the only social media that's kind of accurate is Twitter. I think there's more bots there too, but at least they don't censor anything. Okay, so I don't understand why Pelosi is not excommunicated. Well, I mean, technically she kind of is in Coeur d'Alene's diocese, but then Coeur d'Alene responded and said, "Oh, I hope to talk to her at some point." Well, he already issued the letter, so you should tell her to talk to you before you remove, in order for her to have the ban removed. But he didn't. He just said, "Oh, I'd like to have a nice dialogue with her," or whatever. So that's really sad. And yet Strickland stays in the Vatican to religion. You know what, though? I'm not so sure. I think Strickland is going towards tradition. The only problem is I don't think the SSPX would accept him as a bishop. They would probably need him to go through lots of training to be reconsecrated. Yeah, I mean, I'm not really so sure. I think, so I'm kind of conflicted on this. I mean, it's not, so the Bishop Hawander, Bishop Vitus Hawander, who recently passed away this year, may he rest in peace. He lived at an SSPX seminary in Switzerland. He was a Novus Ordo bishop. So he moved to a SSPX seminary in Switzerland, and he lived there for several years. And for all I mean, as far as I know, he said a lot of masses there. I don't think he went very many places. I think he kind of mostly stayed there. And Strickland has a high profile right now. I mean, the SSPX. I don't know if Strickland would be interested in the SSPX. I don't know if it's the other. I don't think so much the other way around would be a problem. I think the SSPX would. I think they would probably take him. I think there would have to be some discussions. And as far as reconsecrations, I don't know what Bishop Hawander did, but I think it was sort of like a scandal to the hardline SSPX people whenever he, what would it be, the Wednesday before Holy Thursday, like blessing the oil of chrism or something, the chrism mass. He said the chrism mass in Switzerland, and I think some people were complaining about that because they didn't think he had a conditional reconsecration. Now, I don't know. I don't know because the SSPX, it's not. They don't have official positions on a lot of things. I mean, they say there's a crisis in the church, which I think most of us would agree. And their thoughts on the Novus Ordo are probably a little bit more hardline than some people would like to, the stances that other people would like to take. But at the end of the day, there's a crisis, and in the Archdiocese of Chicago, for example, if you want to go to a Latin Mass, at least on the first Sunday of the month, it has to be the SSPX. You can't go to the St. John Cantius because it's banned on the first Sunday of the month. The Institute, you have to sneak into a private Mass. So they're banned throughout the entire Archdiocese of Chicago. But Supich, Supich isn't able to mess with the SSPX or the Eastern Rites in Chicago, which there are several. So you have some reverent options there, and that would be my recommendation. Now, if you're in the middle of nowhere, it's harder to find, it's the more reverent liturgies and Latin masses are fewer and farther between in the rural areas. With less population, obviously, it's going to be more difficult to find that kind of stuff. But it's definitely worth considering, finding a reverent place to go to Mass. And even if you can only make it to that place like once a month because it's too far away, it's definitely worth traveling to, I would say. And especially, now with the winter season coming, and the people up north are going to find it harder to travel at this time of year. But when the weather gets nice, it's definitely worth trying to find something reverent. So that's just my 2 cents. But, with all this liturgical abuse and everything, it's just not reasonable. Now, for the people that do go to the Novus Ordo, there's nothing like, they're not evil people, and I'm not condemning them. I'm just saying that, you want to find a reverent liturgy that should be a high priority regardless of your situation. But especially if you have children, you really can't expose them to liturgical abuse if you want them to remain Catholic. It's just so hard in this day and age. And heck, you even see like violence in schools, and it seems as though the most recent situation was gender misidentified, and that seems to be more common practice. And so the more you can shelter yourself and your family from that, those type of people, the better, because it seems as though they're really unhinged. So to the point where they do stuff like that. So I can't really say much more about that. So this is the third week of Advent. As Parent Ryan called it, Pink Sunday. But in the traditional rite, it's also Ember Week. So get out your Latin Mass Missal. If you don't have a Latin Mass Missal, they're available online for free on ebooks. Like as an ebook, you can download an ebook or you can find something on archive.org or whatever. So find one of those and take a look, read the readings, and celebrate traditional Ember Week. So with that, this has been EVTN News. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, we are the laity, and we will not be silent.